You ever have one of those moments where everything just flips? Like the ground you've been standing on your entire life suddenly crumbles beneath you? This story is about a kid named Tyler, a regular teenager, lived in a quiet neighborhood, played varsity soccer, always made sure to walk his dog before dinner. But one day, with just a few overheard words, his entire world changed. And it didn't happen in some dramatic way. It was quiet, almost accidental, but it shook him to his core. This isn't just a story about adoption. It's about identity, about the power of truth, and what it really means to belong. You'll want to hear every second of it. Let's start at the beginning. Tyler had always thought his life was pretty normal. Not perfect, but normal enough. His mom, Susan, was a high school math teacher. Super sharp, a little strict, but she made the best blueberry pancakes on Sundays. His dad, Greg, was a mechanic. Hardworking, quiet, always had grease on his hands and a soft spot for old country songs. They weren't rich, but they got by. Tyler had his own room, a rusty red Ford pickup when he turned 16, and a dog named Milo who followed him around like a little brother. But there were little things. You know, those details that don't mean anything until they do. Like how everyone said he didn't really look like his parents. His skin was a bit darker, his eyes had this light hazel tone that didn't match anyone else in the family. And there were no baby pictures of him before the age of 2. Every time he asked, his mom would smile and say, "You were camera shy?" And Tyler believed her. Why wouldn't he? It all started unraveling on a Tuesday afternoon. Tyler was upstairs, half asleep in his room, earbuds in, but not playing anything. He was supposed to be doing homework, but instead he was staring at the ceiling, letting time pass. Downstairs, his mom was on the phone. She must have thought he couldn't hear her, but her voice drifted up through the air vents, soft but sharp. She said something like, "He still doesn't know. We always said we'd tell him when he turned 18. Tyler sat up. His stomach dropped. The voice on the other end, maybe it was his aunt, replied, "He's going to find out eventually, Susan." There was silence. Then his mom's voice again. "I know, but how do you tell your son he's adopted?" Tyler froze. The words echoed in his head. He's adopted? No, that couldn't be right. He pulled out his earbuds, walked to the vent, pressed his ear against it, hoping he misheard. But there it was again. We were going to tell him. We just never found the right time. In that moment, everything shifted. Every memory he'd ever had suddenly felt like a question. Every family photo now looked like a lie. He didn't confront them that night. Instead, he pretended nothing had changed. Sat through dinner, pushing his food around his plate, nodding at the conversation without hearing any of it. His dad laughed at some joke. Tyler didn't even smile. His mom asked how school was. He said, "Fine," even though his chest felt like it was caving in. He barely slept that night. His mind was racing, heart pounding, thoughts going places he wasn't ready to go. Was his whole life fake? Did his real parents not want him? Were these people even his real family? He didn't even know how to ask. "What do you say?" "Hey, Mom, I overheard you talking about me like I'm a stranger." He waited 2 days. And then, on a Thursday night, after dinner, he stood in the living room while his mom graded papers and his dad watched TV. "Can I ask you something?" he said, voice barely above a whisper. Susan looked up. "Of course, honey." "Am I adopted?" The remote dropped. His dad turned slowly toward him. His mom's face turned white. She didn't deny it. She just stared at him, mouth open like she'd just been caught stealing from her own home. What followed was silence, then tears, then 1,000 apologies. "We wanted to tell you. We really did," his mom said, her voice trembling. "We just didn't know how. You were so young when we got you. Just 2 years old. You were already ours. It didn't feel right to say you came from somewhere else." Tyler didn't know whether to scream or cry. He just sat on the floor, numb. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Did you think I couldn't handle it? It wasn't that, his dad said, his voice cracking. We were scared. Scared you'd feel like you didn't belong. That you'd stop seeing us as your parents. But you are my parents, Tyler said. You always were. That's the problem. Now it feels like none of it was real. That was the first time he saw his father cry. The next few days were strange. Tyler walked through school like a ghost. He couldn't concentrate, couldn't eat. His friends noticed something was off, but he didn't say anything. He'd go home and sit on his bed scrolling through the adoption papers his mom eventually gave him. It was surreal. His name was there. His real birth name, Javier Tyler Mendoza. He'd never even heard it before. There was a file, a photo of him as a toddler, chubby cheeks and a wide grin, and a letter from his birth mother. In messy, emotional handwriting, she wrote, I want you to have the life I couldn't give you. I hope one day, if you find this, you understand. I love you more than anything. He read that line a dozen times. He was angry, but not just at his adoptive parents. He was angry at the entire situation, at how no one gave him a choice, at how his identity was something people thought could be hidden. Eventually, he started asking questions. Do you know who she is? He asked one night. His mom nodded. Her name is Marisol. She was young, barely 19, no support system. Her parents kicked her out when she got pregnant. We met her through the agency. She picked us herself. Does she know about me now? We've kept in touch. A little. She wanted updates, pictures, but we stopped after a while. It felt like it was hurting more than helping. Tyler sat with that for a long time. He didn't know what he wanted. A reunion, closure, a conversation, or just space. Part of him wanted to scream at her. Another part wanted to hug her. The rest was just lost. Weeks passed. He started writing in a journal. Something about seeing his thoughts on paper helped him put all the chaos into some kind of shape. He also started going to therapy. Not because someone forced him to, but because he knew he couldn't make sense of this on his own. His therapist, Mr. Donnelly, was calm, wise, and patient. You're grieving, he said one day. Not a person, but an idea. The idea of who you thought you were. Tyler nodded. That's exactly how it felt. You get to decide what happens now, Mr. Donnelly continued. You don't have to throw away your past to make room for your future. You can carry both. That stayed with him. One day Tyler wrote a letter, not to anyone, just to the world, or maybe to himself. He wrote about being angry, about feeling betrayed, but also about gratitude. He loved his adoptive parents. They weren't perfect, but they gave him a life filled with love. And he started to understand. Being adopted didn't make him less whole. It didn't make his life fake. It just meant he had more pieces to figure out, a bigger puzzle. Eventually, he told his closest friends. Their responses surprised him. You think this changes how we see you? One said. You're still Tyler. You still kick our butts in FIFA and eat all the snacks at my house. That helped. After a year, Tyler made a decision. He asked his parents if they still had contact info for his birth mom. They did. He wrote her a letter, told her about school, about soccer, about Milo the dog, about his confusion and anger and everything in between. A month later, he got a response. Marisol wrote back, carefully, lovingly. She told him about herself, how she was working in childcare now, how not a day went by where she didn't think about him, how grateful she was that he had a good life. They didn't meet right away. It took time, conversations, trust. But eventually, they sat across from each other at a coffee shop. It was quiet, emotional, but peaceful. Tyler realized something then. You can love more than one person deeply. You can belong in more than one place. He didn't have to pick between families, between past and present. He could hold it all. His adoptive parents never stopped loving him. If anything, they loved him more fiercely now that the truth was out. And his birth mother, she, never stopped caring. She had let him go so he could have a better life. That wasn't abandonment. That was love in its rawest form. He finally understood. Tyler's story isn't uncommon, but it is deeply personal. When he found out he was adopted, everything changed. But not because his life was fake, because the truth, when it comes, demands to be heard. It forces us to re-examine everything, to rebuild, to decide who we are now that we know what we didn't. And Tyler? He chose to build a life rooted in honesty, in forgiveness, in love. Because the truth didn't break him. It made him whole.